Yo, all right, what's up, everybody? We're getting started right now, and all of our levels are good. Everything's sounding good.
100.
Welcome here.
Ashe, thank you.
Ashe. Hey, what does that mean, Ashe? Let's go into that.
I don't know. You tell me. 'Cause
So to me, no,
it might mean something different to me than you. So you tell me.
to me, it's like an affirmation with your prayer that you're gonna be putting in some work in or something.
Yeah, I'm like setting the tone for openness and good vibes and intention. And like I think about like you might have heard somebody say like namaste or amen. It's like one of those words for me, and I associate it with African spiritualism.
Yeah, when I started deprogramming some of the things I thought were true,
Yeah,
I came across information on African spirituality,
yeah,
and it was revealing to me that a lot of stuff was derived out of it.
yeah.
It was kind of like predating a lot of things that people currently are participating in. And I was like, whoa, what does this even mean? Like, do they as a group go look at what people in the past were doing? Like,
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna be real with it. Like, I think about what it means to practice and fully believe and dive into Christianity as a Black American and recognizing, that religion wasn't actually brought to our people originally,
yeah,
Like there was something else we believed in and worked through in community before Christianity, and we've been taught to see that as deviated and demonic.
hmm
Just like, oh, okay, so what's that socialization? And then I think about white supremacy and all these other really big things that seem interconnected. So yeah, I think it's important to say the thing. Like we believed something else before this.
hmm
And then what does that mean? Oh my gosh.
what I do as a tool, and Earl taught me this. We didn't teach me. You put me on to it. Was street epistemology. It's like a really good tool.
You taught self though, really.
Well, you gave me like a alley oop. I dunked it.
You sure did.
Because I had a family member that was appearing to me joining in like a cult association.
Uh-oh.
And I use that term loosely. I don't really, they're not a cult, but the way that they were initiating her felt cultish to me. And I wanted her just to think about why she was making the choice to join them and how that establishment came to be. And so it's hard to have a question about someone's beliefs or what they're accepting as a truth because it can feel like an attack on your person.
Yes.
But in street epistemology, what it does is it starts with how much of something do you actually believe out of a scale of 0 to 100%.
Right.
So we can say like believing in ghosts. Like, do you believe in ghosts 100% for a fact they're real? You talk to Casper all the time, y'all homies.
Yeah.
Or you believe in ghosts 0%, no such thing as ghosts. Never gonna see a ghost. Everyone that ever saw ghosts is
On a
lying.
spectrum, or either here or over here.
Yeah. So once you get a person to just give you a percentage, then you can work with that percentage on how much something they hold to be true.
Yeah.
To be true or not. And it's a good skill. I suggest people use it in just regular stuff with your children, like
Yeah.
because children are gonna start believing interesting things, and you gotta be like, well, how'd you come to that conclusion? How much do you feel of that?
I like that. And I feel like it allows you room to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
And that objective piece in thinking is so important because then you can suss through information that you're receiving from other people that make you feel certain ways. Like if you feel anger when you hear something from someone, you get to explore that feeling and wonder where that's coming from and what's your socialization on that issue. And then what do you believe? And then, oh, is this in alignment with what's really happening in other people's experiences? So it's so important to, even if we don't share the same beliefs, or even if we feel really strong feelings when we approach those really big questions,
Yeah.
we can still converse about it,
Yeah.
right? And
100%.
have disagreement or agreement. It's not conflict because it feels uncomfortable.
But I think it's important to learn to do, and I just think more people would benefit from having this skill within them, is to be able to take how you feel and say, okay, I feel this way, and this is legit. and this is how I'm feeling right now, currently. And then say, let me place this like a little outside of myself. Let me treat this like the movie I'm watching.
It'll give
And,
you some objective reality.
yeah, let me not deny it. I accept these are my feelings, but let me just treat this like the movie I'm watching. Let me just go ahead and back away from this. And now let me take what they're giving me, and now let me first quantify that in my own way. Let me look at what they're giving me. Let me truly try to understand this from a third person perspective. Still, I'm still outside of the situation. I'm away from my feelings. They're there. They're legit. I'm not denying them.
Right.
But I'm not going to give them the ability to filter my perspective when I look at what the other side is trying to give me. And then when I take what they have and try to understand it from that way, then I'm going to even back off of that. And I'll say, can I compare what revelation I got from what they're actually giving me with a clear perspective to what my feelings are, and make some connection on how I can get what I truly want. I tell my son all the time, like, we're going to always end up in situations in life, and it's not always going to be fair. We're not always going to like it. And sometimes it's going to be hard for us to accept what the situation even is. But we first have to stop to realize, what do we really want out of the situation? So like, if I'm mad at this person, do I really want them to know how I feel? Or do I really want to be happy with this person? Am I mad because I'm not happy with them? So if I want to be happy with them, how can I get to that point versus putting all of my anger on them?
Mm-hmm. In my relationship with my wife, I call that best practices for best outcome.
Oh, that's good.
First of all, put that on a shirt.
Yeah, because it's hard to, like, you do get kind of, we're animals, like we get stuck in an emotional state. Our energy is emotion. And
Think about it. It's the closest thing to us. It's the most interleading thing. It's my compass for my map of direction and where to go.
Yeah.
So I
your intuition.
Yeah, and if I don't fully understand my emotion, if difficult ones come up that I don't know how to deal with, think about what this says to like my existence and how I'm navigating life.
Yeah.
And I feel like you talked a lot about some principles I don't like to say teach because I'm so literal. I don't think I'm a teacher. Maybe a conversationalist, maybe a guider, maybe a supporter.
Yeah.
Possibly a leader. I'm trying to show up unapologetically.
Yeah. A leader.
I think about, I teach you these skills of objectivity and being able to honor multiple truths. Like, you may have intended, right, for your behavior to be equitable, inclusive, and kind, and loving, and you may believe in all these things, but you may have acted in a harmful way. Right. And what does it mean to take ownership of that impact, right? Or that ownership, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna start using that word.
Double entendre.
Yeah. It's like such a mess.
You gotta take ownership. Yeah. Own your shit.
Yeah, it slipped. Like, yeah. But go ahead.
Do you think there is an extremism in a person having to address how another person identifies? Like, you hear those weird stories about the grown man that identifies as a little 7-year-old girl and all that.
Oh yeah,
like, do you, like, is there a limit in the extremism or where a person doesn't, like, I don't think I can participate?
Yeah. Like, I feel like there are boundaries, like societal boundaries probably. There are also really boundaries that are set that, like, does this identity cause harm? Like, is it harmful to be Black? No. But is it harmful to be transracial? Is it harmful to take ownership of a lived experience that you just don't have? One that is associated not always with grief and pain and strife, right? But with a really, really, like, really heavy sense of social consequences that weren't asked for.
Yeah.
Like, no, that seems like a boundary. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
I mean,
can somebody be born, right? And think about all of you that feels like maleness. what feels like a man to you.
Yeah.
What is you? And you know it's you. And you look in the mirror and it doesn't match. I don't get to tell somebody that that's not their experience, right?
Yeah.
And I'm someone I don't know if the term is misgendered, but somebody uses the wrong pronouns for me and it feels painful. And so while I don't understand a myriad of lived experiences, I don't specifically understand living a trans experience, I can put myself in a situation to empathize with living an identity that people are not accepting,
Yeah.
that people are trying to cause harm. And I don't want to do that to someone else, even if I don't understand it, even if it doesn't make sense for me.
Mhm.
I don't want to cause harm.
Mhm.
And I would think that most people share that want with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It's profound.
Would you mind if I commented on that real quick as
Yeah.
well? All right. I asked earlier in the podcast about how, and you did mention earlier about how to start conversation, like
Yeah.
coming to people with an understanding of, hey, what are the pronouns for to be called by? But the question I had asked earlier in the Song Lab interview was like how it was about then having the understanding of between, I guess, free speech and a person's want or desire to then be, because right now I feel like the big conversation across the world
Yeah.
is free speech. Look at Kanye, look at Twitter and Elon Musk,
And I think that
and look at the pronoun conversation.
people should also check, okay, so what are we saying free speech?
Mhm.
Because free speech does not mean protection from social consequences.
Correct.
Free speech does not imply that you get to say whatever it is you want without social consequence.
Correct.
We have time and time again where there hasn't been social consequence, and that has not served us well. So if what you are saying is causing harm, if what you are saying implies that harm will be caused to others, do I then say free speech? No. Oh, no, that's not the part. I think about like what I'm supposed to do as a mandated reporter, which is like I took an oath that if I hear something from a young person that says that they are being harmed, someone will be harmed, or someone has been harmed, I have to say something.
Mhm.
And so I think about it in those lines, like if someone is being harmed, I have to say something. Where do we draw the line?
Well, that's kind of the question. Like at the same time, so where is that harm physical? Is it all like? Is it primarily? Is it all mental harm? Because then people can claim harm almost at anything.
Yeah.
And so then free speech comes into play in the sense of there is an ought in the situation between dealing with any two people and communicating, right?
Right.
You should be respectful.
And I think
But
what
where is
helps with
that?
I
Where
think,
is that?
well, the where is it? I don't know if you'll ever
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but I think what will help you suss through that, like the confusion that's associated with that, is communicating our boundaries, right?
That's good.
And then, like, if we don't communicate our boundaries, how do we know? Like, if I didn't tell you that my pronouns were they, them, you'd have been she, her me all day, and then I would have been feeling all this pain and feeling unseen and blah, 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 right? And then recognizing that in space, okay, how is this person meeting my boundary? Are they respecting it? Are they just stumbling and having some trouble? Are they intentionally dismissing my boundary? Is my boundary reasonable? Is my boundary serving me being my most favorite and fullest self? Am I interested in the greater good? Is my boundary also serving that?
Wow.
Like having those conversations will help you not even focus on, well, where are the limits of free speech? I don't even have to worry about all that jargon.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm down here with my boundary, what Kanye's doing right now is against my boundaries. What he's doing is impacting people in my community, people in other communities I care about. And that's my dude. Like, I don't even practice Christianity, and Jesus Walks is my song. I
Yeah.
I'm out of state, out of country. That's the song I'm bopping to. And then
Yeah.
that's where my boundaries are.
I think I think what I would like to see more is empathy from both sides.
Absolutely.
Communication and empathy from both sides, because to me it's culture clashing.
Yeah.
It's not able to understand a person's intention, but they also come with their own preset and their own programming and
Yeah.
how they interact with the world. And then once you communicate, then at that point, it's how you're going to express empathy and concern for that person, and how
100%.
and how they engage in reality.
In a way that respects you and that person, right?
Mm.
And that's a lot of what I do in the work that I support people in is offering space for people to leave with their integrity intact, everybody hopefully, and an opportunity to talk about those things like socialization and what's been communicated to me and how did I come up with my thoughts and do I want to challenge these? And oh, what's this difficult feeling associated with challenging this thought? And oh, now you want to add on the conversations about racism, white supremacy. Okay, I feel
Yeah.
better inside and I feel like I can suss through my emotions and information objectively. Now, where's the information?
Mm. Mhm. And the information to me, there is going to be things that are laws. I think that, so for like critical race theory and people not wanting to teach all of history,
Yeah.
I understand their mentality about it. However, you're doing a disservice to the people coming into this reality who need to know what
Yeah.
has happened.
And there's a difference. There's a big difference between teaching actual critical race theory
Mm-hmm.
and then just teaching the truth, inclusive and whole truth,
Yeah.
and recognizing that even still you may not have the whole story, right? Because how like if we're not truly this inclusive world, how do we know?
Mm.
If we remain open to the idea that the story is always open for more information, that'll help you honor
Mhm.
pronouns, right? Because the story's changing. We're changing. We're all different, and more different of us are coming to the table and telling our truth.
Mm.
The story's changing. The
Yeah.
information is changing.
I do think it's devalued that every day we are building new history. And at the same time, we don't take enough to learn the one that we actually have.
Right.
But I also want to say that in the acquisition of belief, you also acquire frameworks and boundaries of your reality and perception. So most people think that because they believe something makes them open-minded. But when you believe something, you actually reject anything that is not in opposition of that belief. So if I do believe, say, Christianity, that means I don't Catholicism. I don't believe in
Yeah.
because I've chosen. In the same sense, it's kind of limiting.
Yeah.
And people put themselves in these boxes. You want to be open to people, have empathy to understand. The problem is when you talk culturally in that same sense.
Yeah.
So culture is about recognizing and uplifting the differences in people and societies. So it's kind of hard when one culture has beliefs and things that make them identify with that culture, but it would alienate another, but then that's a core value of that culture.
But
So you see what I could bring it back around, but you see what I'm getting at.
yeah, but
Okay.
before we do that, let's define culture.
Go ahead.
It's like I often I use this graphic. It's a little fish. It's a little drawing of a fish in a small fish tank, a little probably goldfish if you don't know. And it says culture is what the fish is swimming in. Are we really thinking about it? Like, do I think about all the air I'm walking through all the time? No. And culture is our forms of communication, our symbols, right? So I might have a work culture. You have a song lab culture, right? We got Black culture, and then my Blackness culture. They're different in my home. And then the overall culture, how we've been socialized to interact. So if we think about like all these levels of culture that are impacting us and telling us this is what's acceptable, this is how it's communicated, these are the norms, and what's outside of this is outside of this culture, and there's consequence for that. Like if we start thinking about that stuff, it kind of shifts our ability to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also so I'm kind of like an absolutist, and I also don't believe in anything. So I don't believe like I believe the culture is you. You are the culture. Each individual is a culture. So if you go to live in a place with another person, you're cohabitating with another person's culture.
Yeah. And creating your own.
And creating a new culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I think I have a third point of view, actually.
Oh, hit it.
I believe culture is derived from the experience of the person, and we kind of label it for aspects of that experience. So I am Black.
Right.
First, before I'm Black, I'm a man, and then I'm Black. And then, so as I live my life and have experiences, I am adding to the Black culture because I am a Black person. So, and you, no matter even if you went and were Carlton, dancing in the Hamptons,
on the spectrum,
you're still adding to the Black culture because you're Black. So that's how I did that.
So you're actually adding to another concept that I teach, which is intersectionality.
Okay.
So the ability to own these multiple identities that meet at this intersection of unity. So you're this Black man, and you might be on the spectrum of intelligence on the higher end, right? Above average. That's an identity. You might be living with different mental and physical needs, right? You're a musician, that adds to your identity. You're a son, you're a father. And all these things create you, and intersectionality honors that existence. And then says, like, in the space of life existence, this is how you're impacted because of those identities.
Yeah, 100%. But then all of that then goes, it adds, I think, to cultures on different levels. You can say there's cultures, as you were explaining, work culture, but that's when you're in those environments and you're able to first have those experiences. So as I have my experience, I'm actually adding to a culture. The culture is outside of you. So you can't say you're the culture or you're the culture in my mind. So when you guys say, when you said it's individualized, I don't think, I think what you more of the air around, like what you're saying with the bowl of, like the air around people is the culture, because as we're unified and the commonalities between us and all, then that would in history be denoted as that's the culture of the Black experience.
But I feel like there's only one instance in my life experience where I can say I am the culture, and that is when I say that I'm Black. Something about that, as I feel like I'm saying I'm my culture, Black, all of it. I don't know how else to explain that, but I feel like that's just the one scenario where I can say I am the culture.
And I think that's personal identity too.
Yeah.
That's what we identify, because we purely identify as Black as well. I do, I just like I identify as a man, I identify as Black, and I got things in my experience which hold that up for me. Now, do I identify as that with my soul being? I don't know what that thing is. That's ethereal. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure that out.
On your journey with it. Because like my queerness, it was always there, right? But it wasn't as pronounced. Like my journey with it wasn't as big, right, as it is. Like now I can say I am queer.
Yeah.
Alongside the Blackness, there's room for that. Alongside the feminineness, there's room for that. And alongside with the intellectualness, there's room for that. Somehow there's room for that identity to be as pronounced. But I can't say that it was. So I feel like there's other journeys with Blackness probably too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You know, people are finding that these things can coexist, and not everything is one thing. It can be two things, three things.
Multiple truths.
Multiple truths, for sure. Multiple facts. What what I think is something to address. I don't know if it's America or societal, but it's just the part of people taking a culture and trying to manipulate it or distort it. So this is my example for that. And my previous employer, I won't say their name, they had black was it Juneteenth right next to Pride, all on the same table, like mixed up.
Yeah.
Like it looked like Harriet Tubman freed the gays. Like I was like, I was like it was just like I was like, oh,
I
so
remember.
it just looked like they
That's
did some,
it was disrespectful.
I showed you the picture, right?
It was disrespectful.
It just looked like
Well,
they
to
did.
me, it was disrespect. I don't care who. Everybody can feel the way they want to feel about it. It was pure disrespect.
So I feel like, yeah, corporately there's like a responsibility, and I think, you know, they'll meet that responsibility, but I also see like on the extreme side of things, like when my daughter's on YouTube, there's a thing that says, "Are you gay? Take a test to find out if you're gay." So I'm like, who's making this application?
Yeah.
Who's designing this application? Like that.
Who is putting on these identities, these marginalized identities, as a game?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's some exploitation in culture, I think, that happens.
And it happens when Pride is all over the commercials, right? All of a sudden that's inclusive. Like,
Mhm.
what's the model for inclusion? How do we meaningfully
Mm-hmm.
and intentionally have these identities share space so that when you hear information, it's not discomfort? Or if your child encounters something odd like that, they can say objectively, okay, well, I respect identity, and this information doesn't seem truthful or appropriate for me. So I have the skills to say I'm not really paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just So I think every movement. I think So I say this a lot, but the pendulum swings, right?
Yeah.
And that's
There's a
because,
theory about that.
well, this is what in every movement, when you have oppressed people, they need to work so hard to express that then I feel like it goes a little overboard. I think in every, like, even in the Black experience, like, I think there is a too Black. You know what I mean? Like, just
What does that mean?
I don't know what it means. It's just like where, if you still waking up in Black Panther, gear every day talking to, you more than the NFAC. You above the NFA. You're saying you fighting the same 60s preferences.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if just like there's an extremism to any idea, I do think there's an extremism to every movement that we see. And when it comes to gender identity or when it comes to sexuality, I think because it has been oppressed, because it has been such a taboo topic for so long, I think people feel like they need to overshow. Like, there's a lot of overdoing it at times. And then there's also the fact we need to open the way for expression and make it normal. So, I mean, like, people shouldn't, so when I talk to people who are, gay, or I mean, I don't know the right words to use, so please forgive me if I don't use it right, or are different than me, and I
I'll
talk
get
to
you
people.
canceled, bro.
Thanks.
So-
You'll always get me canceled. I'm already canceled.
I'm
I've never been
working
on.
on it.
I tell you, I've never been on, so you can't cancel me. So when was I on? You know what I'm saying? But when I talk to them, the conversation always, a lot of times, revolves around the sexuality or the big conversation, and a lot of times, with the way that I am, I just don't care, and I just want to talk to you.
And that might be your lived experience and intention.
Yeah, me personally.
But
And
you know what it's like to navigate through a world that tells you you're Black first, and that's what I see.
oh yeah, and a lot of people talk to me,
And the rules say you're Black first, I see that first, and you're outside of what is expected in this space, so you're not going to get what they're going to get.
correct.
So
No, I understand that
somebody
100%.
living that gay or trans or whatever experience in the LGBTQIA++ community,
Thank you.
they're living life through
that
a level of
continuum.
impression that is reminding them of their
All the
gayness
time.
or whatever their identity is.
And that's the problem that
And that
I'm trying to highlight right now. But once we can normalize that as a society,
Yeah.
then I can get back to connecting with them as
The
a real person
individual.
beyond just their sexuality, and
you
still
might be
so
on that wavelength, right?
yeah.
Because this is how your education and socialization and experience with thought and ideas are coming. You have those skills.
Mhm.
But a lot of us aren't showing up in a world a lot of us are showing up in a world that is socializing us to not have those skills.
Yeah, I mean, people don't care about people as people
Yeah.
first, and which I think is weird. I think
Yeah.
that's, for one, the
Passion
weirdest
is
thing.
a tough thing.
We're all here, we're all alive.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why we don't get that respect first.
Yeah.
And then let's go into the aspects of our experience.
Me neither, and
What
that's
other-
why I be doing what I do.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird in that sense, but then it's like, because I see that with that group so much, it's such a large conversation. You hear the hurt, you hear the oppression, you hear the
Yeah.
the reason why it's such a large. I don't think it should even be that large. Like, just like how me being straight is not something I probably ever have a conversation about,
And you want to
but it's a part of my experience.
Do you want to know
It's
why
because
you
it's
don't?
normal.
You're the
It's
center of
regular.
identity.
It's the central thing. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. I would rather it just be regular. I tell my son all the time, look, can we just go through a week of school without an incident? Like, can we normalize just being good? Because it's normal how you feel, but you now need to normalize the responses of what you do in the classroom that'll make your situation work for you normally. Can we
But you're
make that a
saying
normal thing?
meet-
I'm not telling,
meet the idea of good, but it's like,
no.
what is people's perception of good?
no. It's not saying that even they need to do something. I'm saying the problem lies in the fact that us as a society have made this issue so big through the oppression that we put on it, that it now highlights it as a big thing. The pendulum swings. We've oppressed it. We've said you can't talk about it. We said this is a bad thing. We beat people up. The same with our blackness. We've been murdered. We've been killed. A lot has happened over the years. So now we need to swing it back. We are prideful of being black. We are prideful of our sexual identity. We need people to see it. We need people to be all about this thing when it just needs to be here. We are okay with who you are. We are okay with your blackness. We can work together. We can cooperate. We don't need here or here. We need, that's like optimum. Can we get that? Who knows? But that's what I'm saying. It's like, you can see the cry for help in the fact that it is such a large issue.
And I want to get to a space and a time, hopefully within my lifetime, where we're in a world that can at least see that people are living those identities, sometimes compounded at a time. And not that it's all strife and, as a queer Black person, grief. No, my life is good.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still problems. And I want them addressed not only for my identities, but for other people. And if that's not your jam, I get it. Like, if you don't really care what happens to other people, if you don't really care about the environment you're in, or if you want to show up in ways that are different than how I show up and you think they serve the better good, yeah, that's groovy too.
Yeah. I think before we wrap it up here, I mean, we went really deep. Like, that's
Deep,
great.
huh?
I'm sorry. I get a little passionate.
Passions there.
Yeah, I do too.
It's important that people care about these things. So that's why I'm happy there are people like you that do care and that put in the work. In terms of like American slavery, a lot of people don't know that like a lot of people weren't for slavery. They just didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So there were communities, even during slavery time, where
Mhm.
Black and white people cohabitated and things weren't well until there was a greater force that wanted that resource and
It turned a
killed.
blind eye.
Yeah.
And there were people actively talking, like during the construction of the Constitution, and like people in the room contributing to that so-called literature and law
Yeah.
that were against what was happening in the room. Just not enough people were willing to have that
It was a lot of
That-
groupthink, and
Yeah.
and it was a lot of groupthink that caused it. It was a lot of money behind it. I mean, cotton at the time was the world's biggest
white
resource,
supremacy.
and white supremacy, of course, was really big, along with religion was tapped on that. I mean, there's a lot of things that were going there, but then also abolitionists is
Yeah.
how it was dissolved as well. So I give that credit as well as us. So we always have to draw within ourselves, always know that we will have support, always know that if we have faith in ourselves and what we do, we'll find a way, make a way, and quit like living this limited type of reality where we're just regurgitating problems and believing that's going to be the future. We have a problem. Let's go change it. Let's not worry about the rest.
More abolitionist statues. If you want to make statues, more abolitionist.
Yeah, I'm with
I like-
that.
I
Heck
like
yeah, let's
that.
do some abolitionist
I like that.
statues. I'm with that. We can replace all of those civil rights generals that weren't on the right side with abolitionist statues.
Confederate
Heck yeah, yeah.
And
Hey, that's lit. All right. Appreciate you guys tapping in with me. We got to get together and do this again. Like,
No problem.
there's so many topics I want to talk about.
Okay.
And I feel like the energy between you two having different views and opinions is great.
That's
It's real grounded. And
generative. Like you
yeah,
can
real
have difference in
respected.
opinion.
Heck yeah.
and
It's real
be
respectful.
accountable and kind.
Yeah, accountable and kind. Yeah, and you got these terms you keep throwing. I was like, grab them. Accountable and kind. Got it.
And what was the one you said though?
Oh yeah. It was like 3
um,
words or something.
No, I said best practices for best outcomes.
Yes, best practices for best outcomes. I love
Put
it.
it on a shirt.
Yeah,
Heck
yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. I'm gonna appreciate you.
Thank you.
Dollar.